that's one of the reasons why I don't go to the doctor. I've been in the restaurant business for most of my life, and I did pharmaceutical dinners for years with a company, and I listened during those dinners. I mean, I didn't just serve the people. I listened to those doctors. I listened to those drug reps, and I listened to what happens once somebody goes down the road on any particular drug, and it usually is the road to another drug, because just fixing one ailment with or putting a band-aid on it with this is going to cause havoc in another area.
Edmund, welcome back.
Great to be here, Dave.
Great to see you again. It's been about 7 months since you were last on, so we thought we'd catch up and see how things are going. As we're doing an update interview, maybe we could split this into two parts. For people that haven't seen your first interview, maybe we could just do a summary of how you got onto carnivore and what happened for you. And then maybe as a second part, we could talk about what's happened in the last 7 months or how things have been going in the last 7 months. Does that sound okay?
Sure.
Cool.
So originally I started carnivore. I was looking for a diet for my cousin. He was diagnosed with esophageal cancer, and I was trying to find something that would help him get some relief. Unfortunately, he was really far down the whole. I mean, it happened so fast. He was diagnosed, and within 3 or 4 months, he was already gone. And most of that time he spent in the hospital, eating what they were feeding him. And I, periodically would say, what are they feeding you? What are you eating? What are you doing? He'd say, well, my favorite things that I can take down are ice cream and milkshakes. And I was just like, Brad, that's not going to help you at all. He was like, yeah, well, this is all they've got for me that I can really eat. And so, as you know, and most people know, that sugar is not the greatest idea for a cancer diagnosis. Um, but I started doing this diet right around August or September of that year. Um, I guess that was 22 or so. Time is flying by. I mean, honestly, I can't even remember how long ago. I think it's about 18 months or so that I've been doing it. Um, but I started doing it thinking that I was going to be able to, you know, pass along the good word to him and say, hey, this is really working. It makes me feel good, whatever. But it was just too much for him. He was already in a position where he wasn't able to even stomach real food or any food for that matter. But that's how I got into it. I didn't think, I was like, well, I'll do 30 days, see what happens. And you know how that goes. You get through that first 30 days and you're like, well, the first 2 weeks were kind of hell. But, once you got past that little, you got rid of all the sugar and stuff, you were like, okay, this is new. All of a sudden you got this brain fog lifting. All of a sudden you have all your joints and everything are starting to feel like you can move again. I mean, I couldn't believe how much mobility I got just from going carnivore. Now, I had plenty of mishaps, where I really enjoyed drinking. So, there was in the beginning, I was doing what I could to, kind of combat that. But at the same time, I really enjoyed having a couple vodka sodas in the evening time. And so I considered myself kind of a dirty carnivore. But I was still getting all kinds of benefits from it, um, which I totally would recommend it to anyone. I mean, uh, it's a little bit basic as far as the food goes, but you can actually, you know, find ways to spruce it up a little bit over time. But yeah, I lost my cousin in February of that next year, and um, I kind of went off the rails a little bit right after that. Went to the funeral. There was all kinds of crazy food there. I was like, well, I'll just eat what's here and see what happens. And then it turned into 2 or 3 months of not doing carnivore again, and just realizing, okay, now I'm starting to feel those same ailments again. It's really coming back, to being, I'm not feeling great. I thought, you know what, I was feeling great during that carnivore. I should go back to it. And so I did. I really revisited it sometime in like May of that year, and I really dug in really hard, and I took the steps to try to stop drinking for a good period of time. Now, I haven't completely stopped drinking. It's one of those things where, you know, I'll go 2 or 3 months at a time, and then I'll be like, oh, I could have just one little reward. And then I'll have one little reward, and it turns into, well, I didn't feel it the next morning, so maybe I can have another reward. And, that happens again, and I'm like, well, I mean, I'm not really, it's not affecting my weight gain, and I'm sure it's affecting other things. But at the same time, when you feel good, um, and things don't bother you, sometimes you kind of let a little bit of it in, just a little teensy bit in there. Um, but nothing like it was prior to carnivore diet. So still working on keeping myself as clean as possible. But since we talked last, I have been a lot more hardcore than I was before we talked.
So hardcore in terms of in terms of no alcohol, or hardcore in terms of just
Yeah,
everything?
trying to really focus on feeling healthy and doing the healthy things. So even if I would mess up and have drinks one night, I wasn't doing it night after night, not even week after week. So I mean, there's been periods where I've gone 3 months, 4 months without having anything. Um, but I really try not to beat myself up about making a poor choice now and then. I just feel like everybody's got to kind of live their life, and if that means that once in a while I have a cocktail with friends or something, or once in a while I eat a meal that's outside of the carnivore realm. I eat it. I enjoy it, and then I get right back on, doing what I do, and that's cooking at home mostly, keeping myself away from grains and starches and seed oils and sugars. Um, so I mean, I have a pretty steady diet of ground beef, ribeyes. I'm a dairy person, so I don't seem to have any problem with dairy. So I add in the cheeses and stuff, and I love to do those smash burgers. Those are so much fun. I love to get that crispiness on the bottom and let the cheese kind of melt all the way through a little bit. Uh, um, every so often, I'll even throw in an onion or two. Shh, don't tell anybody.
So, um, just a comment on your when you said you don't beat yourself up anymore. I think this is an important part of successfully doing carnivore, actually, is not getting hard on yourself when you have messed up. It's just kind of going, oh, well, okay, so I had a break, or I had a drink, or I had I had a dessert, or whatever I did today. That's okay. I understand that, I'm probably not going to feel great tomorrow, or my joints are going to be a little bit more sore or something like that. But that's a good reminder of why I need to stick with carnivore. And it's this kind
Absolutely.
of self-reinforcing kind of thing. But when people get started initially, that kind of, oh, I made a mistake, or I fell off the wagon, that can be like, that can just destroy everything, right? Because you're in that
I,
mindset, it's all or nothing.
I definitely have been there. That's kind of what happened with me with my cousin. When he passed away, I mean, I went off the rails and I didn't know how to recover. Because I would just say to myself, oh, I'll just have one more meal that's not okay, and then I'll switch back. But then I would just, I would wake up the next day and go, well, it's okay if I just start next week, or if I start on Monday. And now I don't do that at all. I go right to the next meal as being a carnivore meal. So anytime, I always call it entertainment food. So anytime I go out with friends, or I go to a family member's house or a friend's house, and I'm eating, and I just eat what they have. If we go out to dinner somewhere at a restaurant, I try to look for the things that could be carnivore, and I kind of ask, like, hey, can you cook that in butter or something like that? Um, but if I can't do that, I just suck it up, have one entertainment meal, and then just move right along. Um, I I really enjoy the way I eat and the way I feel. So I think, you know, I like it, and so I'm not really concerned about sticking to it, because it's just what I really enjoy, and I enjoy watching other people enjoy it as well. It's a big thing for me. I spend a lot of time, watching other people's journey, and just seeing what they're doing, and just finding new ways to enjoy myself. And I really don't think about food that often, because I'm only eating, 1 to 2 times a day. It really depends. On the weekends, I end up eating a little bit more because I'm off work, and so when I get up in the morning, I like to have a nice big breakfast haul. So I'll have a bunch of eggs, a bunch of bacon, and it's early in the day. Um, and that kind of just makes me think about food more a little bit. But during the week, Monday through Friday, I don't eat breakfast until I get home from work. And I don't get home from work until like 5 p.m. So my breakfast today is going to come after this interview.
Oh, nice. Nice. So,
So
oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say it's a great window of intermittent fasting. I feel like that makes me feel the best. Just taking some time, and throughout this whole journey, I have done 3-day fasts, 3-day water fasts, 5-day water fasts, um, and just that it really just improves everything when you do that. I mean, you'd think that you'd be tired, or you'd feel hungry, but I don't know. The more I do fasting, the longer I can do it, and the better I feel at the end of it. And I'm always worried about this refeeding syndrome that you talk about, or that you see. But I feel like my fast, if I'm only doing like somewhere between 3 and 5 days, I don't feel like it's long enough for me to even have any issues in that area, because I've never really had any kind of, like, as soon as I'm ready, I'm like, okay, eggs, bacon, let's go. Let me get a steak. I'm always, the first few times I would get like, I would make like bone broth, and like ease my way into eating. And now I'm just like, just give me a regular meal. How about a 22-ounce ribeye?
Yeah, give me. I'll have it all. Just normal as usual. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've only done 48-hour fasts, and yeah, I'm the same. So maybe it's just not long enough. But yeah, as soon as the 48-hour fast is done, it's like, yeah, I'll have everything now. Thank you. Yeah. And so um over the last 7 months, has anything changed as far as people who have um, maybe were resistant, or thought it was a little bit strange seeing you eat this way, have kind of accepted it more, or has anyone actually kind of moved across in your circle?
Well, Um, my wife has baby stepped closer and closer to carnivore. She's still, mostly keto for the most part, but she's off and on it, and doesn't really give it a full, you know, she doesn't really fully dive into, she'll go for a couple weeks here and there, and then she'll be like, oh, I'm craving this, and then she'll go straight into have it, and she'll be like, well, since I had this meal, next meal I'm gonna try this and this and this, and then I'm gonna get back on it next week. Don't worry about me. And I'm always like, okay, yeah, you got to do what you want to do. Um, but have you ever noticed, like, at a certain point, like, I feel like I was eating a certain amount of food, and then all of a sudden I was just absolutely ravenous. I could eat twice as much food, and then all of a sudden I felt like my muscles started to develop a little bit more, especially in my legs. I started doing some body weight squats, and let me tell you, when I first started it, I did like two or three, and I was like, oh, oh, this is awful. and you know and I always kind of hide in the bathroom before I take a shower, and do that so my wife doesn't see me doing a little exercise. So I'm in there doing body weight squats, and in the first few days, it's just a few of them, but after doing it for like a month, I can do like 50 or more, where I can go all the way down and come all the way up, and I feel good. And then I started doing push-ups as well, which the push-ups were the same. I started off, I could do about 10 or 15 push-ups, and now I could probably do 50. I could just rip 50 out, in a row. And sometimes that's what I do. I'll just go in the bathroom, and I will do 50 body weight squats, and then 50 push-ups, and then I'll get in the shower and get ready for work. And then I'll skip it, and I always skip a day, and then I do it again. Um, but that seemed to really improve everything about me.
Yeah, yeah, nice. Yeah, I've found similar, just doing push-ups or whatever, you build muscle much more quickly. And also it seems like you do go through periods of like, I want to eat more, I want to eat much more, and then it goes down again, and just kind of waves.
It's
Yeah.
almost like you're going through like some healing process in your body, and you need some more nutrition, or something is going on in there, and you just all of a sudden your body says, I'm calling for, how about instead of having one ribeye, have two, or have a ribeye and two hamburgers, or have, instead of having 6 eggs, how about 10 eggs? Instead of half a pack of bacon, how about the whole pack? Sometimes I do that, and it's wild. I never know when that's going to happen.
If someone came to you and wanted to know, like, what's the best way to get started with this? What's your, after you've been on this for an extended period of time, so what would your best advice be to someone who's kind of tire kicking at the moment, but is almost ready to get onto carnivore?
Well, what I always say to people is, when the carnivore diet is an elimination diet, you're eliminating everything down to ruminant meat. Of course, you could have other meats as well, but if you really want to get into it, you're narrowing it down to like lamb and bison and beef, and those are the best things for you. But for those people that aren't really ready to just jump straight in just meat, I usually recommend, hey, there's a couple ways to start this. You can start off, just by eliminating the starches and the sugars and the seed oils, and then keep your veggies in there, keep a whole food diet, and eat meat and eat fatty meat, and try your best to eat the fat. And if you can't eat the fat, try to add some in with butter and stuff. But my best recommendation is always to say, if you're just starting out, there's a guy named Dr. Ken Berry who has all kinds of great information online. You can go onto YouTube. All you have to do is say Dr. Ken Berry, carnivore, Dr. Ken Berry, ketovore, Dr. Ken Berry, kidney disease, Dr. Ken Berry, anything you want. And there he is with his Tennessee twang telling you exactly how to do it in such, layman's terms. He doesn't go into all this medical jargon. I mean, unless he has to, but just to get you through these basic steps of getting started, he'll tell you just like that. Hey, start for 30 days. At the end of 30 days, make a decision. After 60 days, make a decision. After 90 days, make a decision. If you got, more metabolic problems or autoimmune disorders, then maybe you have to get a little bit more hardcore or extreme in what you're eating and what you're not eating. Some people, just like being allergic to, some people are allergic to shrimp, some people are allergic to spinach, some people are allergic to whatever. So it's going to be different for every person that starts this journey. They're going to be some people, have an intolerance to eggs in the beginning or all the time. And what I've also found is that things that have bothered me in the past, after a period of time of being, just beef, butter, bacon, eggs, salt, water, if I can add some things back into my diet and I don't have the same exact problems that I did before. I don't feel bloated or anything like that. I know that my wife has those kinds of issues where, she can cut out everything and then, just a little bit of dairy might make her feel bloated, or just a little bit of vegetables might make her feel bloated, or, have some discomfort in the bowels. Something I've never really talked about on here is that I do not go to the doctor. Oh, so over the years, I've suffered from ailments that I just grin and bear it. So, I've had bowel problems for the better part of my life. And, it comes along with all kinds of things, but like you'll have discomfort when trying to use the restroom. Also, periodic bleeding from time to time, whether it's anal fissure or some type of polyp or something back there. And of course, everyone says to me, oh my God, you better go. And I'm like, it's been the same for me since I was 15 or 16. So the better part of 3/4 of, 2/3 of my life, I've been suffering from the same thing. And I feel like the times that I've been super strict on eating carnivore, just the steaks and the eggs and the bacon and the water and the salt and a little bit of dairy and just completely no vegetables at all, have been the best times for my bowels. It's still a work in progress trying to get it regular so that it's it's not like I'm constipated or like I'm having diarrhea. It's still a work in progress. I haven't 100% figured that one out yet, but I'm getting there. I'm getting there.
And is that like a thing like, oh, whoops, I added too much fat in there. Whoops, I didn't add enough fat in the last meal I had. That kind of thing.
I think so. A lot of times, yeah, a lot of times I feel like I'm having a lot of fat in my food, and maybe I'm not having as much as I thought, and I could probably add some more on there. But there have been times where I wasn't sure if I was constipated or if I just didn't really have to go. You know what I mean? Like it felt like something was happening, and then I would go in there and I'd be like, well, it's nothing's happening, you know. I mean, and you don't have a whole lot of gas, you know, when you're not having all the vegetables and stuff. So it's hard to determine, you know. I saw somebody, I can't remember who it was, but they said, you know, I only go 2 or 3 times a week now, and it's like this. They said it's like this. I can't remember who it was, but it was so funny, and I was like, that's kind of how I feel. Like every, you know, it's like, you know, you have to go, but then it's like it's just this much, and you're like, it has to be more than that. I ate 7 pounds of meat since the last time I went in here, and I'm thinking, you know, that your body really does absorb the meat. I mean, it uses all that tissue and it uses all those nutrients, and that's why you just don't have as much waste.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, like at first, it's really quite scary at first, but then when you think about it, it's like, oh, okay, well, most of the time throughout my life, I've been eating junk, and so my body's just been getting rid of it after I've eaten it. But now things have changed.
I do have a deep dark secret too. Every once in a while, I love avocados, so I eat them every once in a while. And what's funny is I can see them come out, like
Really?
literally, like literally. It looks, yeah. I'm like, there's avocado. So I don't know. I just have a thing about avocados. Every once in a while, I like, you know, maybe once or twice a week, I'll have like a half of an avocado, and then I will see it come out. Like if I had a colostomy bag, it would be in there. Like, hey, what's up? But I'm like, that's strange, but it's there.
Yeah. Um, so where do things go for you from here? Related to carnivore and also maybe other things in your life that may be changing as a result of energy improvements and things like that you've had on carnivore. Like what does the
Well,
future hold?
I got to tell you, I'm starting to feel so good that I played soccer for many years of my life, and then um, when I was about 30, I guess about 12 years ago, I had a injury while I was playing an outdoor game. I stepped into a small pothole, and it kind of just messed my whole back up, and I ended up having to like crawl off the field and like scream my way into the car to get home. You know, it was hard to get in the car even, and I was laying on my floor for like 2 weeks straight where I could, because I couldn't lay down in the bed because it was too soft. So you know, I couldn't even. It would just the slightest little movements, my back would just. I mean, it was very painful, and I vowed, I was like, oh, I'm never playing sports again because I can't miss that much work again. And I feel like that's changing right now. I feel like I'm almost to the point where I'm going to get into a 50 plus, you know, um, soccer, you know, thing. They have some like places that you can go here in Columbus, and they have indoor and outdoor, and you can sign up to be on different teams just for fun, and they have, you know, play like a Monday night, or you know, or Saturday afternoon or something like that. I feel like I'm almost ready to do that again.
How can we find you on YouTube, Edmund?
Oh yeah, so you just go to at carnivorous dude on YouTube. So I do primarily shorts, and so it's just little 15-second videos of me cooking what I'm eating for dinner. Um, I don't really get too frilly or crazy about it. I'm not actually the best YouTuber out there. You know, like I don't know all the tips and the tricks and all that kind of stuff. So I just kind of fumble through it and do it. And it's a lot of fun. You know, it's a lot of fun to put it on there. And, I've gotten lots of people, comment positive or negative. Either way, it's fun for me. Um, I think it's fun to watch other people's stuff, and then, and just putting the energy out there that, hey, carnivore is definitely a lifestyle. It's not just a diet change. It's something that you would want to do for probably the rest of your life. I mean, that's something I want to do for the rest of my life, even if, there's periods of time where I kind of do a little bit different things or add some things into it from time to time, but not with any frequency. But just that's life. You kind of want to enjoy your life. And if you got yourself in a position where you feel good, you look good, um, everything's going right, and you want to try something new, feel free. I mean, trying carnivore was something new. If I would have met you 18 months ago, I would have said, I probably won't do it for 18 months or for the rest of my life, but I just want to see where this takes me. But now, every time I take myself down a different path, I find myself going right back on the carnivore path. Um, and it's just because I feel the best. I look the best. And it's just, there's just nothing better than being able, it's funny. I started waking up, at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning every day. And like, I never was like that before. So now I'm kind of like what is it? The circadian rhythm, you're in tune with the world. And so, that's kind of, I mean, it's nice to be in tune with the world and just sending out the message to other people that if you want to feel good, then, you got to consider what you're eating, because the doctors, that's one of the reasons why I don't go to the doctor. I've been in the restaurant business for most of my life, and I did pharmaceutical dinners for years with a company, and I listened during those dinners. I mean, I didn't just serve the people. I listened to those doctors. I listened to those drug reps, and I listened to what happens once somebody goes down the road on any particular drug, and it usually is the road to another drug, because just fixing one ailment with, or putting a band-aid on it with this is going to cause, havoc in another area. And then all of a sudden it's just spiraling into something new. I mean, if you ever watched any Carrie Man videos, he always has that big box of all the medication he was on before he started going carnivore. And I think about my mom every time he shows that big box. Me growing up, she allowed the doctors to just tell her exactly what she was supposed to be doing with her life by telling her, take this, take this, take this. If you don't take this, you're going to have other problems. Well, if you take that, you're also going to have lots of problems. And she looks a lot older than she should at her age. And I would say it's from having to be, on all types of medication her entire life. And it's not the way I would want to live. And that's the reason why I kind of stay away from doctors. And I did go through, right after going carnivore, I had my appendix removed. I mean, I had never felt that way before. I had gone to work and I came home and my legs felt really weak and I just needed to lay down. And as I laid there, it just, the pain just started radiating more and more and more. And I was doing my best Google MD, and I was looking up, what's going on here? What's going on here? And, my wife says, well, if you need to go to the hospital, I'll take you. And I said, no, I'm fine, and it got till it was like 3 o'clock in the morning. And finally I was like, okay, something's happening. I better go get it looked at. So we went to the emergency room and they were like, hey, your appendix is like on the verge of exploding. And they said, we're going to have to do emergency surgery. And so the next morning, I had the emergency surgery done. Well, I guess it was that morning, really. But I had the emergency surgery done, and then I went home. It was like, it took about 15 minutes for the surgery to happen. It took several hours to prep to get in there. And then afterwards, about an hour after I was done with the surgery, I told the nurse that I had gone to the restroom, and they said, well, then you can go home. And of course, I didn't go to the restroom yet. I wanted to get out of there. And so I went home, and my wife said, are you sure? Are you sure you should be here? And I was like, yeah, I'm fine. She was like, I told you it was all that meat you were eating. And I was like, I doubt it was all the meat I was eating. I was like, I felt so good. I said, I'm sure that whatever was going on with my appendix was stuff that I had built up for years and years and years leading into that situation. And to anybody that is skeptical about, carnivore, they might say that, hey, it must be all that meat you're eating, all that fat, what's going on? And I totally did not believe that in my heart of hearts, and I still don't believe that. I feel like that I've done I did all the damage way prior to any carnivore diet. And, I see all the time, is carnivore diet good for me? I'm 65 or I'm 75 or, I feel like eating this way intentionally can change anyone's life for the positive, even if it doesn't correct things, immediately, or it just gives them minimal correction on some of the things. Because some people, are really far into, pain, and and just things don't happen overnight. It does take time. There's more than just the meat. There's time involved, and healing involved, and your body, everyone's body, where it might work similar, it's not always exactly the same, because we've done different things to our bodies to keep it from performing at its best. And so once you get to that part where you're feeding yourself to perform at your best, I think it's only a matter of time before you become the best part of yourself, best version of yourself, no matter
Yeah.
what age you're at.
The thing that I think is really important to emphasize is people do this for the long term. And, I'm now doing interviews with people like yourself now, where it's not the first interview, it's the second interview. And this is 7 months on. This was any other way of eating 7 months on. It would be a very different story. It would be like, okay, so 7 months on, what, how much weight do you put back on? Or how, what have you returned to eating like before? And I'm not interviewing anyone like that, right? When we do the re-interviews, it's always like, no, I'm committed to this.
I feel like the longer you're committed to it, the better ingredients you end up putting in. So when you first start out, you're just trying to, eat meat and find it wherever you can. And then you start sourcing things, you start listening to other people's journeys and finding out, things that they're doing. Like I eat sardines 3 times a week now, because I'm not a huge fish guy, but I feel like I still need to have fish in my diet. And that whole, vitamin B, vitamin B3, and, all the omega 3s and omega 6s and all that kind of stuff. And, you think about that, you're like, I want to kind of, you start thinking about all the different ratios instead of just like eating meat. You're like, okay, well now I'm gonna intentionally eat this type of meat, and I'm gonna intentionally eat this type of fish. Um, like Lent is very hard for me because I it's a no meat Friday, So on those on that Fridays, I have the hardest time because I really want to eat meat, and I don't want to just eat eggs. And then I'm like, well, I'll try some fish. So I'll go to the fish market and get something like cod, something that's very, it doesn't smell fishy and it doesn't taste fishy. Um, but I'm never satisfied with it. And in one of the weeks this year, we went to the fish fry at our church. And I decided for that one week, I was like, I'm going to have everything they have at the fish fry. And so it was like a baked potato, which I only ate one bite of. And then it was like fried fish with breading, which I ate a lot of, with tons of vinegar all over it. And then they had like green beans and mac and cheese, and I got a little bit of those, and I took a bite or two of each, and I was like, I don't really want this, but I mean I was there, and I was just like, it's just one meal, I'm gonna do it. And the next day I didn't feel that bad, but I went straight back to the meat. I was like, I cannot wait to get some steak. It was, I mean, it was for real. I was like, I can't believe I ate that last night, but no big deal. One meal. And when you do that, you kind of kick yourself out of that regular ketosis that you're in, because you pretty much stay in ketosis when you're on carnivore, that's what makes everything so simple, I think, because you're running on this fat fuel, and it just seems like you're staying an even keel all the time. There's no, you don't get tired after you eat. You just kind of you eat and you move on.
Nice. So Edmund, I'll link to your channel in the show notes, and I'm really happy to speak with you again and hear, you're still doing really well. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story with us.
Oh, absolutely, man. Dave, you're one of my favorite guys on here. I love seeing all the different people that you interview. It always just opens my eyes to different things that I can be doing. And if we can share those things with others as a community, that's why we're here.